Let us pray. Father God, first, thank you for the many blessings that you have given us as a county, and thank you for the blessings on the people in this county. We ask your forgiveness for where we have failed, and Father, we recognize the blessing of serving in public office, and we ask that tonight that you give us guidance and wisdom as we work together to make the best decisions for the people of our county and those even who touch us. In your precious holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. And I think that we need to, someone make the motion to add Resolution 20-02-805, requesting General Assembly to amend Tennessee Code annotated Section 68-211-706.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next is appearance of citizens. Do we have anyone here that would like to address this committee?
My name is Abby Moore. I live at 109 Wakefield Road in Oak Ridge. I'm not sure if this is going to be covered in the latter part of the meeting. If it is, I'll wait and come back later. This is my statement about carrying concealed weapons.
It's not on the agenda,
Okay,
so
good.
yeah,
So may I
it's
speak?
appropriate slot.
Okay. I've come before you today to express my concerns about your proposed legislation allowing county employees who work in the courthouse to bring concealed weapons to work. When I came to speak before the Legislative Committee in February, my husband and I had to go around to what we consider the back of the courthouse because the front doors were locked. The back doors were also locked. We waited for a moment, and an employee exited. We asked her to hold the door for us, and she did, but said, "I sure hope you aren't a disgruntled employee coming in with a gun." I didn't take that to be funny because I was coming to speak about my concern about employees carrying concealed weapons. So that made me think there may be employees who share my concern. To further my assumption that all employees may not want this sort of legislation, I submit this. I attended most of the Anderson County Charter Commission meetings. What's important about this is that the commissioners asked the department heads to come before them and tell them about any desired changes within those departments that would make the employees' jobs better. What I heard is that Anderson County is privileged to have so many dedicated, long-term employees who work every day to do their job. Not once was the desire for employees to be able to carry a concealed weapon mentioned. Not once. They weren't asking for that. They had the opportunity. They could have said it at that time. They did not. I will take a chance and assume that you have taken time to research some of the pros and cons about carrying guns in the workplace. I know that Anderson County passed a resolution declaring it to be a Second Amendment sanctuary county in the hopes of being able to deter the passage of any reasonable gun control legislation. In my opinion, that still does not provide a logical reason for allowing minimally trained county employees, those who are not the law enforcement agents that we employ, that it allows them to carry a concealed weapon. I argue the following. Does the county have to assume a duty of civil liability? If a workplace shooting occurs and those employees who are permitted to carry firearms either fail to stop the shooter or injure another individual as a result, an injured person may argue that the employer assumed a duty to protect them when it allowed employees to carry firearms in the workplace. Does the county have adequate liability insurance? What about workman's comp insurance? Have there been instances of potential violence that have caused you to want and desire to allow employees to carry concealed weapons? What's the reason? Bureau of Labor Statistics consistently show workplace violence affects hundreds of thousands of people annually, causes days lost from work and billions of dollars of productivity. What about the impact of gun ownership in the families of these employees? Having a gun in the home increases the risk of accidental shootings and using the gun in a suicide. In the event an employee accidentally shoots someone, what is the impact on him or her and his family? Again, I oppose allowing minimally trained employees the right to carry a concealed weapon. I urge you to find the best solution for all of our citizens in our county and to best investigate the question fully and to find the best solution. I trust our county employees to do their job. When I come in to update my automobile license or to pay a tax bill, I trust them to do their job. I do not entrust those employees with my life. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Anyone else? And next, we had courtroom security and witness rooms, and Commissioner Val has asked to put that off for another month or two. He's getting some information together. Rex, do you have anything on that? Okay. Well, Commissioner Val's putting something together, and he's working with the committee.
We'd already approved it at one point.
Well, yeah, but what it was an update, and he's putting a plan together, and he just wasn't prepared tonight, so he has to put it off. I think he talked to Commissioner Creasy too, didn't he?
Yeah, and that was on the courtroom security, but the witness rooms is separate from that.
We can definitely talk about the witness rooms.
And Roger is here and can talk about our progress on that. He actually worked with Catherine. We had an architect come in to set that design up for the witness rooms. And Roger did work with Catherine. They went out to bid, or I guess that's quotes, in order to get cost of that. So we do plan on bringing that to Budget Committee next month. And then also, Matthew has done an inventory of everything in the archives. And so in order to finish addressing the weight issue, we've been working with an elected official on relocating part of those that he's inventoried to another location in this facility, so that will allow us to do those witness rooms. So in April's meeting, you'll have a presentation or a request for funding. And then Roger also has been working with ESG. Our plan is to, when they are in this building, they've got a couple of things they want to accomplish in this building. As you heard Russ say before, you want to make dust once. We want to time any work for the witness rooms when we're doing some of that ESG work, so that if we're disruptive or we're making arrangements to be here after hours, because with the judges, we're going to have to do it that way, we want to do that all at the same time. So, is there anything you want to add? Did I miss anything, Roger?
No, I mean, if you got any questions, I'll do that again.
So we're moving forward.
Yes, we are.
That's
Yeah.
the key.
And I don't think the cost on the witness rooms was, what did it come in at?
Around $12,000, and that's basically build some walls, some doors, and drop them out in each one. So we'll try to keep it as minimal as possible.
What's the estimated time they can be done, completed?
A lot of it depends on the way
I got you up there,
Yeah, anyhow. No, and a lot of it was we was working with ESG, and as you all know, that done at DARC in Oak Ridge, we set aside like 7 rooms for the growth of Anderson County, for the record storage, for whatever. So if we can make it all work out, I'm saying within the probably next 6 months. Educated guess. So like I said, we'll take most of the records and stuff from here, from off the second floor, and go straight into DARC. And I would kind of like I'd talk with Terry today, if that's not legible or whatever for whoever, we can always put it in one room, and we can always come back and remodel that one room. I'm just saying, we are moving forward, and like I said, I'd talk to Rex some, and we have been moving some records down there slowly but surely. So it's just kind of a work in progress. And like I said, as far as the ESG coming in and doing the stuff that they're gonna do, it should all work out.
I think our judges will be pleased that we're moving expeditiously now.
Yeah.
At the courtroom security meeting here a week or two ago, the judges were not happy with how far quickly we moved ahead with this project, so they'll be glad to see that it's actually moving now.
Any other questions?
I just want to thank the mayor for the good report. She's always prepared.
Mayor, you're still up.
Oh, okay. The next item is a resolution to accept the proposal from the Tennessee Department of Transportation to construct a project in Anderson County designated or described as Bridge over Brushy Creek. We can approve that, subject to Gary is reviewing it. He's got the maps now, or if you want to put it off, it's up to however you want to handle that, Gary.
Entirely up to the commission. I just got the drawing a few minutes ago down here on Highway 61, so if you'll want to put it off next month, that'd be fine.
Or we can do it subject to his approval.
I mean, this would involve the very generous matching that's going on in the bridges, right?
No, actually, this is entirely a TDOT project, and all they're asking for is your standard, for instance, when they're working,
Well, that's right, this is a state road.
yeah, this is just as an agreement that it's standard boilerplate, essentially, that if we've got to close a road or something like that, and those are things that he's going to have to agree to. So it says Anderson County, but really it's going to be your
Road superintendent.
road superintendent, but it doesn't, that's not the verbiage that is in there, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 20-03810 upon acceptance of the highway supervisor.
A motion is second. Commissioner McCamey.
Gary, will you have time before next Monday when we meet? I doubt it. I mean, we'd be glad to come back next month. It's not a pressing issue with the state at this time. I think they're just in right away. It's a project down the road, some 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 years. So it's all on state.
2 or 3 years, I guess we don't have to rush. Okay. So
Any
this-
other discuss-
So this is really just getting us on the list. This isn't something that they're ready to start.
No, they're not gonna start anytime soon. They're in right away acquisition, I think, as far as that, it's just preliminary stages, and this is preliminary agreement that they pass out.
Okay, he can just let Chairman Wandell know whenever that he's reviewed it, and then you can put it on
We
that
could
full
put it
commission.
on next month's schedule if you want to.
Okay,
Upon the road supervisor's approval.
yes,
I think that's what he's asking.
yep.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next item is just informational only, and I put in the commissioner's packet a talking point, kind of a talking point page from the Tennessee Department of Health, and so I just want to let everyone know that even though we have a local health department, all the information on the coronavirus from a local health department standpoint is controlled from the state level. And they are working obviously with the CDC, but your best resource, whether you're for your schools or your EMS or the sheriff's department, if you go to that particular website, all of the guidance is on there. So for instance, if there is an outbreak, the guidance for how you proceed as an EMS department is listed on that webpage. So it's a great resource for not only us as a government agency, but also for the community, for the public. There is a phone number that is listed on that website that is a 24/7 phone number. If you have a question that cannot be answered or you're confused, they have someone there. They also, today, for instance, they're constantly updating that site. They're meeting on a regular basis Today, they sent out they have now 3 confirmed cases in the state of Tennessee, and then they put additional guidance on there. So I would just encourage any commissioner or any elected official that has questions to direct the public to that site. And at the local level, your local health department has particular plans. So for instance, if there is a pandemic, then they have various plans, just like we have other emergency operation plans. Those would be triggered by the state, and then they would implement those response plans at our local Anderson County level. So I'm happy to answer any further questions, but as Commissioner Creasy did when he walked in the room, this is your friend. This is one of the number one. Washing your hands and sanitizer is one of the best way to prevent the spread, so.
I've got a couple of questions. One, do you have that number that we could set on the air?
The toll-free number? Let's see here.
And this is where they can call the health department, because the more people watch the national news, the more people get really, I guess, excited or worried about the situation, especially when you have, a whole country that goes into confinement, such as Italy, where there's 17 million people in confinement or quarantine. And now that, they've got an Uber driver, and one of the things that I'd be concerned with is what steps can we do to protect our employees while they're here in the courthouse, and then, our sheriff's deputies that go out and they make calls, they knock on doors, and when they meet somebody at a car, I mean, they have no way to know. So is there any precautionary measures that we could take? Is there supplies that we need to budget for, such as gloves, masks, or anything like that?
Okay, the hotline is 615-741-7247, and you will actually ask to speak to someone about the coronavirus.
Okay. And if someone wanted to call our local health department?
They would be referred to the state.
To this number right here?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they have resources there, but here is our,
Yes.
so I just was directing everyone to the state website. This is Charles Turner. He is the director of the Anderson County Health Department.
Good evening. I've got a handout here that's got some resources on it that will be very helpful. This is fresh off the press. If you may, I approach
Sure.
and pass these
Mhm.
out.
Thank you.
While you're passing that out, I'm gonna ask the mayor again, that number, the way I have it is 615-741-7247.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
I didn't think it would be too bad to repeat it. Thank you.
And what I can do, if it pleases y'all, I can forward this via electronically. That way you can just click on the links that are in this and go to the particular webpage. Would I forward that to maybe the mayor to get to y'all, or is there someone who does your minutes that would be able to send that out?
Annette Pruitt?
Okay, I'll get with you, Annette, and send this to you, and you can forward it out to all the commissioners.
And
if
she
you'd
can
like.
put it on the county website too for anybody else that wanted to look at it.
Y'all have any specific questions of me? I'll try to answer them. I've got some general information that I can go over with you, but I don't want to take a lot of your time. I know it's very valuable, so.
Well, this has become a lot of talk, and again, like I was saying before you came in, there's a lot of people that's interested in this, and there's some that's worrisome because of the national news and the things that they see. And, there's more to it. There's also the financial burden that it could put. And you see, I mean, they're even talking recession over something like this, that could set when we start going into quarantine. But anything that you could suggest to the people at home or to our employees?
One of the things that I can state is This is a new coronavirus. It is not necessarily a super bug. The coronavirus, a strand of the coronavirus, is what causes us to have the common cold. The thing that I would stress to people is the flu. We do have a vaccine for the flu, and we are still in the midst of our flu season. But we need to take normal precautions like we do every day. We need to wash our hands, use sanitizer if you don't have access to soap and water. And the big thing with the coronavirus is they feel like it is spread through droplets, not necessarily airborne. So therefore, washing your hands, using hand sanitizer, and as hard and difficult as it is not to touch your eyes, nose, mouth with your hands. Obviously, try to maintain and if you know someone who is sick, not to be close to them. If you're a caregiver, then obviously take precautions for that, washing your hands and things of that nature. The other thing, too, is just being thoughtful, going back to it, to wash your hands and to not touch your face, nose, and mouth. Again, I know that's difficult. If you consciously begin to think about it, how many times you touch your face, your nose, your mouth, we do it subconsciously, honestly, but being very aware of that. Another thing that I would stress to people is if you're sick, stay home. I don't know if there's employers in our community that are very strict on sick leave policies, but they might want to relax those in the near future for people who are sick. You don't want sick people coming to work, so stay home. That's another precaution that we can take. For most American public, it's really unlikely at this time to be exposed to this virus, and that's changing daily. We now know that it's in 35 states currently. We have 4 cases in Tennessee that's either been preliminary confirmed and waiting on CD confirmation. So it is here. But for the most Americans, the risk of catching it right now is low. People in communities, even where there's ongoing community spread, such as Seattle, the risk is elevated, but it's still considered low. Healthcare workers are probably the most at risk. And of course, we've been working, the Tennessee Department of Health has been working with hospitals. We've been working with medical providers. We have what we call the Tennessee Health Alert Network, and we send out updates. We send out all the information, the websites that you have there for guidance. And there's all kind of guidance in this particular packet. There's guidance for communities, community gatherings, education, K through 12, as well as universities, guidance on mass gatherings. So there's a plethora of information in that packet. But again, our biggest thing is washing our hands, using soap and water. If we don't have access to soap and water, using hand sanitizer with 60% or greater alcohol. And if you're sick, stay home. If you know of someone who is sick, maintain limited contact or maintain your distance with them.
3-foot rule.
And so those are some of the things that I can suggest, and I'll be glad to try to answer any other questions. If I don't have an answer, I'll be glad to get it for you.
Catherine, Commissioner.
I have a question. Does it make a difference whether you use cold or hot water when washing your hands?
I don't necessarily know, as long as you are using soap and you're scrubbing for the 20 minutes. So if all you have access to is cold water, that would be okay.
Yeah, I had a few people here in the courthouse ask me about that today. They were talking about evidently some of the ladies' rooms don't have hot water, and they didn't know if that made a difference.
I think the main thing would be to use the soap and to scrub your hand. They recommend at least 20 seconds. So, sure.
Any other? Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any updates on the hepatitis A outbreak that had kind of moved down 75 a few months ago? And are we still offering the vaccinations for that?
To answer your question, yes, we are still offering vaccinations for that. We have been working diligently out in the community to target, I shouldn't say, I don't want to use the word target, but focus on the high-risk population. We still are offering it at the health department free of charge for anybody who presents. When we go out when we are out in the community, we're actually focusing on those high-risk population, and those are basically your drug users, men who have sex with men, the homeless, and then those with chronic liver conditions. But the number of cases has waned significantly over the past few months, but we still are working with that and addressing that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Wendell?
Chairman. Charles, would you say that folks, I mean, you kind of mentioned this, I just want to ask you, should folks still be getting the flu vaccination then? Is it too late, or should they?
We still recommend it, yes. It's not too late. We're in the beginning of March. Sometimes we've seen, it typically peaks around February, but we've seen it peak as late as in the months of March as well.
And they can come to,
They can come to the health department. We are currently offering it at no charge.
okay. And Mr. Chairman, I like your idea of putting all this online, but there is a 800 number too, for those that didn't want to call the 615 number. Is that right, Charles, here?
Yes.
877-857-2945. Again, that's 877-857-2945, and that's for the coronavirus public information line. So,
One of the things that the Department of Health has done, they revisited their contract with the Poison Control Center, and that's the number for their hotline, and they are answering questions for the coronavirus. So that's a partnership that we have there.
One other thing, would it be possible to do, and this would be with Channel 95 and Andy back there, maybe to do some type of informational segment, because Channel 95, there's a lot of people watch that, and it was down for a couple of days last week, and that was an epidemic. People were really concerned with that.
pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
To answer your question, that is a possibility. That would be something
Andy said, yeah.
that's something that I would have to kick up to my supervisors at the state level.
Okay.
A lot of the interviews that they're wanting to do, they're wanting it to come through our public information officers at either the state level or the regional level, but primarily the state level.
Anything else? Thank you, Commissioner.
Question for the mayor. Mayor, I'm sure that Nathan has had many conversations with the EMS employees, but I feel like that and the sheriff's department maybe are two main concerns, because they are the ones that are in contact with people they don't know. Of course, EMS is called out, for sickness, and
Right.
and I'm sure, I know they take precautions even before this, came about, but do you know if there's any extra precautions being taken or any seminars or anything that they've had with the employees?
I know that he has, and I'm not sure how he handles it from a training perspective, if he's doing it via supervisors, but I do know that he received guidance and he's giving his employees guidance. And I think I thought he sent you all an email, but maybe he just sent me an email sharing that information. If it doesn't ring a bell with you, then I guess he didn't send it to you. He must have sent it only to me. But he did make me aware that they are aware of what the guidance is and the extra precautions to take.
I know
Should they
healthcare
confront it?
workers are a main concern for everybody, and they're the first basically to come in contact with something like that. So
Absolutely, yes.
And then our clerks as well, when they're working the front desk, you know, when people come up to get their tags and everything else like that, you know, do we need to, you know, offer them a mask or gloves or hand sanitizer at least, or if they don't already have that?
I would say in terms of your workers, the information that we have is, we are not, the CDC is not recommending general public use masks at this time. If someone is sick, that would really be to help prevent the spread. If they were to cough or sneeze, the mask would help prevent that from spreading out.
I see.
But at this point, it is not recommended for the general public to do that.
Okay, and one other question. And you were talking about homeless with the hepatitis. What are some of the signs, because the district I live in, we're heavy with homeless at the present time, homeless people. And what are the symptoms? I mean, how could you?
I would have to get back on, I'm not a medical provider on that, and I would have to get back with you on that.
I can answer
Commissioner
part of that, because when I was in the military and I was overseas, there was a lot of guys got hepatitis. And there's hepatitis A that you get from eating, predominantly you get it from eating contaminated food, and it stays basically intestinal. But people get a yellowish look on their face, the whites of their eyes get yellow looking. And I know in our guys, I had a couple of guys that got sent into the clinic, and when they walked in, they said, "You got hepatitis. We're going to take a test to verify, but we already know what you got." And so they feel, those people feel really sick. But the first thing you notice is a very yellow pallor to their skin. It's just a strange color, and it's also in the whites of their eyes.
So that's in all strains of hepatitis? Or?
And hepatitis in general will get those things, but then hepatitis B is the one that is usually from illicit sex, or it's body fluid transfers, and those the people are sicker longer, and it can last the rest. They can have it the rest of their life. And then there's hepatitis C, which is just another variety of hepatitis. And that, again, they've got some stuff now to actually cure it. But for a long time, people that had hepatitis C, it could come back at any time. It just stays dormant. But now there's actually treatments that they advertise them on TV all the time. That it's pretty expensive, I guess. You better have insurance if you're going down to get it.
This,
Anyhow, so that you can people that have it, they look sick fairly quick after they have it.
This is from the CDC website, and basically, with acute viral hepatitis, fever, headache, malaise, anorexia, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, or dark urine, and you can have jaundice,
Jaundice, yeah.
and things of that. So.
Yeah.
But we're, like I said, for the hepatitis A, we're targeting the men who have sex with men, drug users, homeless, and then those that have chronic liver conditions. And predominantly, what we have seen is that the majority of the transmission has been among the drug users.
Probably the same share in
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next, I just wanted to give you a quick update of the Mariner Point facility and where we're at. The inspections are complete, as you know, and I made a request for repairs based on those inspection reports. Some repairs I did not request, for instance, such as in the kitchen area, there was some trim that's missing. We're gonna be moving, if we get the facility, we're gonna move the wall. There's no sense asking them to fix the trim, or some of the cosmetic issues. If we're gonna be repainting, there's no sense fixing a cosmetic issue. The survey has been completed. A deed description from the survey was prepared. Phil Cry has been doing the title work, and he just sent the title review to Jay and me this afternoon. And there are some survey confirmations that are needed. Our agreement does require that any liens on the property be resolved, and I guess they do have one lien attached as part of, I guess, everything that Faith Promise has. But that title review is to make sure that the county is covered, and so if they're, as long as those guarantees are there, then the title insurance would be issued. I did meet on site with Stacy Cox of Studio 4 Design. They are the architect for Oak Ridges Senior Center and also the Carn Senior Center. They are getting us a scope of work on what it would take to move the wall. Also, while we were in there, we discussed if everything goes through with the purchase, that we pull up the carpet just from a, maintenance standpoint. It wouldn't take very long in that great room, the big room, for that to get dirty. And then I also asked him about removing the stage, and we're going to take a look at that and see if that's a good idea. But one of the issues in the inspection report was the need for handrails on the stairs to get on to the stage. Now, they did have a ramp, but still, there were no handrails. That would solve that problem and also just give you more space, and then it would open up that back area to be better utilized for storage. But those are some things that are just in discussion and what we're looking at. I have obtained all the mechanical maintenance reports for the HVAC units. I just got those, so I haven't reviewed everything yet. Then also, as you know, this was the subject of an email, but I took the contract to Faith Promise, and I did say to them, of course, as we passed that without any input from them, and so I did encourage them to take a look, let us know if there were any areas of concern. They did send back some suggested modifications. I had a discussion with their attorney. He is going to go back to the client. I expressed some of the concern about one of the sections they wanted to remove, which seemed to imply that there would be no guarantee if there were issues on the property. What I understand is that they are going to reword that to properly convey. Basically, we have all of the rights of the agreement to hold them accountable. But I think there was an issue on the language that basically said, if they are aware of things, then, yes, they're responsible for that. But they can't be aware of something 100 years ago or 150 years ago. We can't hold them responsible for that. But that is still being worked out, and they do have a Phase 1 environmental, and so they're going to send that to us and make that available. So pending this negotiation and outcome, we may have to move the closing forward to make sure that we've properly addressed all of that. And if there is, if we don't properly work out any negotiation, we might need to come back. But I think I feel optimistic we're going to get that worked out, and especially when they send us that Phase 1 environmental for any concerns there. But hopefully, they're going to rework the language to meet our concerns and make sure that we still have all the rights as the buyer for accountability. And then also, I have kept the current landlord apprised of the timeline, the projected timeline, and then our most recent development, I've kept her aware of that as well, that may push us forward, but I'm keeping her in the loop and apprised as to what we've got going on so she doesn't have to wonder. So, if you have any questions, happy to answer anything, but I just wanted to give you a status that, we do have those issues, and it may mean pushing things forward.
One thought that I have, and by pushing it forward, it seemed like I heard in previous discussions that some of our payments to the present landlord may have been late in the past.
I think there was one at one point in time, and I think it had to do with a mix-up in finance office, and so, yes, the landlord did want a provision put in there for a late penalty, so.
But also that may be in conflict with the agreement we have with her. For instance, if she had a buyer ready to move and we were late on our rent, that could possibly cause the lease a violation of the agreement. And I'm not saying that she would move on something like that, but for our own protection, we need to keep that lease legal until we have the new site.
Oh, absolutely, and what I have conveyed to her as far as vacating, and I haven't given her official notice yet, but I've kept her informed of what we're looking at. So if everything, moves forward, I had put on the timeline that we would look at an occupancy or a first day open of May 1st, and then give us till the end of May to get her facility according to your standard contract terms, that we return it in the condition other than normal wear and tear and that kind of thing. And that would give us time so we wouldn't have to do everything, all at once. And, but we have funding through June 30th. And I have made her aware of these developments, and I said it is a possibility that if we have some holdups, it could be June 30th. But I also shared with her that understanding that if she has a buyer, we would do whatever we could, a buyer or a new tenant. But I think she's already advertised it, and she's put a date out there based on our projections, an occupancy date based on those projections.
So you're in communication. and
Yes.
You're both on good grounds with each other.
Yes,
and
absolutely,
That's
yes.
important. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, thank you for the updates. Okay, so tentative date, if everything goes well, you're saying to move into the new senior center on May 1st.
I'm going from memory. I don't have, I didn't print the timeline out. I did distribute it, but that's going from memory because I think that was that a Monday? I was thinking that we close the center on that Friday, then that would give Cherie and any volunteers the weekend to kind of get things in order, use a government day for move-in, and then be open on that Monday for the first full day.
Okay, so May 1st is a Friday.
So that, okay. So then then my timeline must have been, oh, I'm missing a grandbaby FaceTime chat.
Now, we need to take a break.
I'll have to wait till this
That's
goes
okay. I mean,
off.
I'll just, because I guess the reason I'm asking, I just want to, there's a lot that's got to be done.
Yes,
And I'm just concerned that, I know we talked about it in the regular meeting, and Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that all the pieces fit together because, I hear about ripping up carpet. I hear about, at some point, you haven't said it tonight, but I think there's wanting to expand the kitchen or something.
There-
I mean, is all that going to be done later or before we move in?
that would be before, and it's not a heavy construction process, so the nature of those buildings, there's nothing foundational in there. And so but I did want, just to do due diligence and make sure that everything we do is according to code and standard, I did want to have an actual architect look at it instead of just asking Roger or, for an opinion. Not that he's not skilled enough to do that, but I would like, coverage for the county in terms of let's make sure we've got the right advice. They've got experience with senior centers. So he didn't view it as a major project. In fact, what we had just as lay people said would be easy to move the wall here to here, he completely agreed. And I even suggested, well, maybe we should look at doing, a different setup. And he said, no, the easiest thing is to move the wall from here to here. So I would not anticipate that being a lengthy process, but with this in flux a little bit, I'm foreseeing moving it forward. Because I can't really do anything until we make sure we've got the language right on, our guarantees. So. But I'm doing all the due diligence. In fact, when I spoke to the church, I said, is there anything that you do not, is there any reason to hold this up and stop me from doing a survey? Or, some of those things. And they said, no. So, this is a recommendation on language from their attorney. So, but we've got to get that right to be able to proceed with the deal.
I mean, looking at the calendar, it's 35 working days, not including weekends.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that you're talking about to get done, and I guess I just want to make sure that, we don't fall into a situation where we're paying two payments.
Right.
Who's moving? I hear volunteers, and that's great if that's what it is, but again, to see it all spelled out, I still have a concern. Is Roger going to maintain the new facility, and is he going to maintain it under the old budget that he has, or is that going to be expanded? Does Roger have the bandwidth to handle this new facility? I mean, I'm just trying to understand those, and I know we're not going to answer them all tonight,
Right.
Mr. Chairman. I just look at it from my perspective. If I was moving within 30 days, not going to happen. I got so much junk, it'll take me 30 days to load the junk. So, I just want to make sure we're not rushing and then all of a sudden people get upset and, something falls through the cracks. And Roger, I'd like to hear from Roger. I'd like to hear from Roger and what his capacity is, and is he on board with maintaining the facility and cutting the grass and fixing the plumbing and fixing the electric? And I'd like to hear your thoughts, ideas, and concerns while you have an opportunity.
Roger's overloaded as it is.
That's what I thought.
But ignorant may have always been said, I'll try. And like I said, I won't obligate myself to anything, and I do. To me, it's still yet, even with you all, with the mayor, it's still a work in progress.
Right.
I got it, and like you said, you gotta get the ball rolling somewhere. And
I guess what I'd like to say, Roger, and you don't have to answer it now, because I know you'll do anything to make it work. You've always done that.
Yeah.
I mean, you've never stood at that microphone, as far as I know, and complained.
Yeah.
I mean, if you did, you're really at the end of, your complaint is, this is tough. I mean,
Yeah.
that's about as far as you go. That's the
Yeah.
type of person you are, which I respect. I guess what I'm saying is, think about it during this time, and I know the mayor works with you, and I'm not
Sure,
trying to say
sure.
the
No,
mayor
no,
and you
no.
aren't working together at all. I just want it all to fit.
I
And if
got
you
you.
need help, this is the time to ask for help.
Yeah,
If you need additional resources, this is the time to ask for those additional resources. And that's all I want to say. I'm not trying to put the blame on you or the
No.
blame on the mayor.
I completely understand.
Okay.
And like I said, even at that, I sit back and wait for stuff to fall in place just like you all do.
Yes.
And then we'll deal with it. But I got you, it's kind of like it's up front and here we go, so.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. I think everything's in moving, but I think as time catches up with us, we're going to get in a position we're going to be hamstrung. And I just want to make sure we're not hamstringing ourselves. And, I really worry that we're going to say, okay, seniors, you got to move in today. It's not ready. And then they move into a facility they're not happy with because the carpet's not done, the kitchen's not done. And then I just want to make sure all those pieces are in play. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner McCamey.
In Roger's defense, he does an excellent job with the budget he has.
Yes, sir.
But one thing about the senior center is that most everything, maintenance-wise, is done by the seniors and paid for by the seniors. We get a lot of volunteers that come in and do things. We just, Cherie says, we need this, and somebody will say, oh, I know somebody that'll do that, and it happens. And I think Roger will agree, that department probably requires less of his time than any other department that we have in the county, so. But like I said, in his defense, he does an excellent job with the money he has, makes it go a long way.
And I think we are supposed to put together a MOU to,
And I appreciate you saying that, because
Yep.
to Robert's point, and again, I'm all in favor of using volunteers, but if it's a county-owned building, we don't let volunteers come in here and fix the lights for us. I mean, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way, but the MOU hopefully will cover all those pieces and facets, and, because once it's a county-owned building, it's a different, horse of a different color. It's, you know,
absolutely. And I mean, and we're open to any governance. I had one commissioner ask about smoking, and I did talk to the architect, and I said, what do you think in terms of smoking, and where does someone go? And I had Cherie there, and there is a place kind of out back, and we would make that the designated smoking so that it's not folks that are in front of the senior center, and we would make that a designated area. So, any questions or concerns or things that you have on your mind as commission, just let us know, and we'll put it in that document and make sure it's written down so that everybody's on the same page.
and Mayor, you can't do it all. I mean, and I'm not being, I know you're putting this business together, but is there any seniors meeting to talk about the move and what all's needed? Is there a group of seniors getting together to talk about that? And
Well,
because look, here's the way I see it. Seniors came in, said, we need a new building. Got this perfect place, it's a great price. The commission acted on it, we bought it, or we're in the process of buying it. I think the piece that's lacking from my perspective is, how does that fit now? I mean, the building's basically gonna be bought, but how's it gonna be operated? How's it gonna be maintained? How's the electric gonna get paid for? And again, the MOU will cover all that, but I think if the seniors got together and started brainstorming on their needs, whether it's a smoking location, a track location, a sewing, needling room, all of the other things that are done, and they can start strategically planning, then we could put together a solid MOU to cover everything.
yes. And that's a great point. And in fact, Cherie has already laid that out in terms of, working with her senior advisory board. She's already laid out where they plan to have operations, and then she shared that information with the architect as well, just so that he could offer some ideas in terms of what he has seen in other senior centers. So not for any work to be done, but where he might say, hey, this will work better over here. So for instance, he was advising her on, you'd be better off doing your pool tables here and doing this here. And he gave her some of that advice there, also on, when one of the doors that was in a particular location, he encouraged her not to let that be an access door, but just an emergency exit only door. So that is being worked on, and she is working with her folks on that too. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Commissioner James?
This is more for my benefit, but when you buy a house, you want to know how long that air conditioning unit, that heating unit, that hot water heater, do they check stuff like that when we buy something like that, when the county?
Yes, and that's why I requested from, I didn't bring that information with me, but they have a company that, Faith Promise has used a big firm in Knoxville. I think it's Interstate Mechanical. And I spoke with their team, and they sent me all of the just the whole history on the HVAC units. And then they did let me know that the general manager would write a memo if there was anything he thought we should be concerned about. So I do have that. I just have not had the time to look through it and send it to Roger, because he's the one, I'll send to, and because that's, I'm not literate in that area, but he is, so.
Well, the thing that concerns me is, I want to buy this property, but 90 days later, I don't want a $20,000 replacement
sir.
for a heating unit or air conditioning unit or whatever. And do you negotiate that before you sign the final deal?
Well, I think I would have a duty to make you aware if there is an issue. I mean, I know the building was built in 2003. You know, I'm looking at it from a perspective of, are there going to be things that we need to replace? At some point, yes, and where do we fit those into the capital plan? But I also recognize as well that it's at a steeply discounted price. And so, for instance, when I went in with the, you know, repairs, that was a tough conversation to ask for repairs when they're giving us essentially, you know, a really, really good deal on the building. But they did the repairs. So, you know, I'm looking at all of that. Does it undo the deal? If I get a report that says, yes, all 4 units are failing, then I would feel like that's going to be a pretty big price tag that I need to make you aware of as the governing body. So,
Well, there's a difference in a machine or equipment that's running well, but if it's 15 years old or 3 years old, there's a lot of difference there.
yes, yeah,
And some of this is a very expensive machinery.
yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else?
That's all I have on my report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, something I put on there, investment strategy for internet sales tax received. And we talked a little bit about this in finance, not asking for any motions or anything, but just to basically plant a seed going forward. We had 2 of our biggest months in November. You know, we doubled our sales tax from the year before. In December, the previous year was $250 some odd thousand. This year, it was over $1 million in sales tax revenue. And we found out today in the Finance Committee that the cities really didn't gain any more. All that money come from the county side. The 700,000 came from the county, which means the people that live in the county have been buying all this stuff off the internet, so now we're starting to get that. So as we go forward, and now we've only seen 2 months, and we can start looking as we go forward. So what could we do strategically to invest some of that money? Of course, you know, we definitely want to pay some debt, but can we do something like a Justice Center? Is that something that we could plan for, that we could look into? And again, this is just, you know, planting seeds to think about going forward. Commissioner McCammon?
Well, I think it is important to note that we've had a fairly long list of capital projects that people have been asking for many, many years. I'm not against looking at where this needs to go. We need to certainly think about that. But I think one of the places we need to start is with this long capital projects list to see, there's a lot of things we've let off for a long time.
Well, that's
So
the point I'm trying to get to.
But there is this whole thing with changing the sales tax going to the county where it used to just exclusively almost go to the city, is a pretty significant change. I know that the people that work with Charlie Curtis and stuff there in Nashville, that was probably one of the heaviest lobbied things that we had, was to make sure that would happen, because it just wasn't fair that because people now are doing a lot of buying on the internet, and the state was getting the money, but the local communities and stuff were not. Mm-hmm. And so the only people getting significant sales tax revenues were the places where there was actually retail stores, you know, stores and restaurants and businesses open. Right. And so it's a good thing now that the county's sharing in that, in an equal and fair way. So, thank you.
Commissioner McCammon?
A good portion of that, I think, has to go to schools. Is that not right, Mayor? Mm-hmm. Do you know the percentage right off?
I can't recall. It's schools and highway department. are the two largest recipients, and I'm sorry, I cannot recall.
Yeah. So the bulk of it, I think, goes to schools. Something like 60%,
60, instead of 63 or 65%.
63 or 65, yeah. So it doesn't really leave us a whole lot after Gary Long gets his portion either. So, I mean, it's, you know, when you talk about 700,000, yeah, that's a lot of money, but, you know, when 75% of it is already earmarked.
Well, we've got how many pennies, Mayor? Already 4.5 pennies on the tax rate of new money?
Yes, that
Yeah.
one increase for the month of December, so we realized it in January was 750-some thousand, so if you break that down, that's, you know, almost 4.5 pennies on the tax rate, that came in. But, yes, it is split. So I was looking to see, I had asked Robbie about this. Now, if I come up with the email, I'll step forward.
What about the 7 cents that we put on the schools for capital outlay? Does that maintenance of effort prevent us from taking that back now?
It's capped. We gave them 5 pennies.
5 cents.
And we put it into capital projects fund.
And the maintenance of effort does not require that to stay there if it can be made up with with the sales tax money.
That's kind of why it was played that way.
Yeah. And we didn't have to split it with the other two systems, so.
Exactly, right.
Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
As you do.
Touch on what Commissioner McCamey said about the 5 cents for the schools. We could possibly take that back since it didn't affect the maintenance of effort. But like you mentioned earlier with the coronavirus and possibly causing a recession, we really don't know what the next few months will look like on consumer spending or internet purchases, and it probably will take a few months to catch back up. It's, you know, we're kind of operating with a little lag time. So I think we probably need a few more data points before we really come up with a plan. I think it's like you said, it's good to kind of plant that seed, but we just don't know. We've got 3 or 4 months of internet sales tax that we can look at. We don't have a full year yet. We also, I think we're getting close. We're probably right around our $4.5 million threshold in the general fund. And of course, we've just authorized a pretty sizable payment for a lawsuit settlement. So probably trying to save a little money at this point, even more so than paying down debt might be our best bet, since we're supposed to have around $6 million for a county our size. So, you know, probably just wait and see right now would be my thoughts. Thanks.
I would say it would take a year to see, you know, because before you could do anything with adjusting the tax rate, it'd have to be in the budget cycle anyway, so. Mayor?
Another thing to keep in mind, and I know Regina and Robbie and I have talked about getting a report to see if we can also drill down a little bit on where these sales tax revenues are coming from. The kind of the important thing to understand is in Oak Ridge, you have the uranium processing facility, UPF project, that's a $6.5 billion modernization project. And although we might think, well, the majority of that purchasing or plus up is probably happening within the city of Oak Ridge, but it might not be. And I say that because I think of one particular gentleman that did fire suppression who visited me and was looking for a headquarters, not a large facility, but he just wanted to be outside of the city limit for some reason. I don't know what that was and didn't feel that was, you know, my business to ask. But if he's ordering all fire suppression equipment, as an example, for the UPF project, unlike the SNS, which was a spallation neutron source, they exempted themselves from sales tax. The Y12 project did not. And so if we have this big plus up, it may only be, that's why we need to look at these numbers, it may only be related to that project. And we do need to be cautious that we don't get locked into maintenance of effort for roads and schools, for what will just be a window of time windfall, and then all of a sudden we get, you know, to the finish line and we have no revenue. So those are things that we need to look at too as we're looking at those sales tax dollars. That's gonna take a little more time and a little work to dig into it.
Any
Got
other
one more
discussion? Commissioner McCain.
The sheriff's department has maintenance of effort also, right?
Yes, they do, and libraries. And then your fee officials have really kind of a maintenance of effort because they have the ability to go and file a petition. So, but in terms of true maintenance of effort, yes, schools, sheriff, library, highway. Highway is based on average, I believe, if I'm going from memory, it's a 5-year average. And I can't remember if libraries, Commissioner Mead, you serve, is it a 5-year or 3-year average?
I know that it stays really level.
Yeah.
It's little increases, but I'm not sure about that specific point.
Yeah. I think they do averages because they know there might be a special project and they don't want to hold you to a 1-year, you know, only
Right.
plus up, so.
I think the library, our library system in Anderson County is a little different because it's like 1.5, is it 1.5% of the total tax levy or something like that. I think it's a percentage instead of a average or something, so that's part of why it stays stable.
Any other questions or comments? Next, we're going to take up the motion to add resolution 20-02-805, and Chairman Denenberg from Intergovernmental Committee, I think, is going to address this resolution. We took that up in the intergovernmental and passed it forward to operations for approval.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion is second. Catherine, do you want to read it?
I can borrow your copy.
Sure. I think I got your copy because I've got two.
Would you like for me to read it?
Pardon?
Would you like for me to read it?
That's fine.
This is Resolution 20-02-805, resolution requesting the General Assembly to amend Tennessee Code annotated Section 68-211-706, whereas the deposit, storage, and transportation of special waste poses a significant risk to health, safety, and welfare of citizens of the state of Tennessee, and whereas strict guidelines must be set forth to protect our citizens from the dangers associated with special waste, and whereas special waste is defined by Tennessee rules and regulations, Rules 0400-11-01, to include all soil waste that are either difficult or dangerous to manage and may include sludge, bulky waste, pesticide waste, medical waste, industrial waste, hazardous waste, which are not subject to regulations under Rule 0400-12-03 through 0400-12-01-07, liquid waste, friable asbestos waste, and combustion waste. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Anderson County Board of Commissioners meeting on this session of 16th day of March 2020 that we respectfully request the Tennessee General Assembly to amend Tennessee Code annotated 68-211-706 as follows. Be it enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, Section 1, TCA Code 68-211-706 is amended by adding the following appropriately designated subsections. C, notwithstanding subsection A, 1, any private landfill which proposes to accept 50% or more of annual volume to be accepted of any material designated as special waste by the Department of Environment and Conservation shall be subject to this part. Resolved, duly passed, effective 2/3 vote this 16th day of March 2020.
Have a motion and second. We have discussion.
Yeah, in discussion earlier today, I think this is the one you talked about that was going to be a private act. This doesn't read like a private act.
Well, the actual Jackson law, I believe, is a private act, is it not?
No, it's general law.
No, that's general law.
motion to defer to the law director to present as a general, private act request
Yeah, because
as amended.
a private act is generally something that applies only to our county, and that doesn't apply to general law.
The Jackson law was brought up by this committee, or by the commission, and
Yeah.
introduced and passed for Anderson County.
Okay. Well, my concern is that private acts are still going in right now in the General
That's
Assembly.
correct.
But the cutoff for general bills, I think, is passed.
Well, I was told it had been extended.
Okay.
I guess
I was out of town for a week, so I might have missed something.
I'll just correct my motion
Yeah.
to say that upon approval of the law director,
Yeah.
present the full commission for approval.
I would recommend that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing it out.
Yeah, pardon me just a minute before we vote on that. I'd like to bring up a point that, and this is not saying this shouldn't have went before the committee, but as a rule, we normally send legislation or requests for legislation
To the
like
legislative
this to the
committee.
legislative committee. Now, this committee meets this Thursday at 5 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Mr. Mead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I believe that's correct.
And I think that it's appropriate that this go before that committee, and that would be before
Yeah.
the next meeting.
I agree with Commissioner
Well,
Creasy.
This is also directly related to the intergovernmental committee, so.
Yeah, it
But
is.
I have no, I mean, there's a lot of things that go through multiple committees just to make sure they have input from everywhere. So I have no difficulty with that. But I would also have no difficulty with this being passed on to full commission because of the timely nature of its passage.
Well, I wasn't opposing that. I'm in very much agreement with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was thinking that it may be proper to send it to the legislative committee and, as well. And I would certainly vote on it at the legislative committee. I'm gonna vote on it tonight, but
It wouldn't hurt to have two.
Can I make an amendment to the original? Can I make an
And
amendment?
it wouldn't
to
result
the-
in any delay.
Just
Leave it
defer-
as is, and it's the recommendation from operations, and ask them to look at it too. And
Okay.
let them
We can make
their
another
recommendation.
motion to send that to the legislative as well, could we? In addition to this one?
Sure.
It may not have a quorum, may not get to meet, so
Okay.
we'd be stuck then
Okay.
another month down the road. So
But I
we'll go
agree with
ahead and get
Commissioner
it to
Creasy.
Commission with this committee,
Okay.
and then.
Yeah,
Might
we
forward it
may
just for
vote.
review, not for approval.
Okay.
That way, if we don't have a quorum.
Perhaps we can pass this motion, then I'll make another one to send it to legislative for review.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we send the resolution I just read a minute ago, Resolution 20-02-805, to the Legislative Committee for review.
For review.
yeah, that's good. That'll work.
That's my motion.
Second.
Got a motion, second, any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner Creasy.
Any old business to come before this committee?
Mr. Chairman, it is kind of old business. We've talked about it before, but I just wanted, to, if we could, real quickly, get an update on the East Wolf Valley. I know Commissioner Creasy went to the auction, and just wanted to get with the mayor and give her a chance to tell the folks at home. I have several calls hoping we would obtain the property. Obviously, we didn't as a county. The property was sold, so I just wanted to see if I can get an update for Commissioner McCamey or the mayor on what the next steps might be for East Wolf Valley relocation of convenience center.
We're still looking for land. The auction was not originally, it wasn't scheduled to be an absolute auction, and the thought was that it wouldn't bring what the owners wanted it to bring. When the bid got to a certain point, the owner said, make it absolute. And there was no negotiations after that. I did speak with the gentleman that bought it and asked if he would be interested in selling a portion of it to the county, and he said no, he would not be interested.
How's that property zoned?
Commercial.
we would have to go back and have it light industry for a convenience center if we had bought it, but that wouldn't have been a problem with the planning commission, I don't think.
I'm just curious, can a bar go back in it?
Yes,
But would
But-
they would still have to go before the beer board though, wouldn't they?
right. But the owner did tell me that as long as his name was on the deed, it would not be a bar. He wouldn't, I asked him what he intended to do with it because he owns several places on Clinton Highway that are junkyards.
Mm-hmm.
So
Couldn't be a junkyard.
I asked him what his intent was, and he said, well, it won't be a bar as long as my name's on the deed. But he would not ever tell me what his intent was.
But to be a junkyard, it's not zoned properly, is it?
I don't know how.
I think that's a special
I think
designation
they have
now.
a special zoning. He would have to come before the planning commission and get them to change the zoning, recommend changing it.
I think it's I-2.
But right now, it's
I
commercial.
think it is I-2, yeah.
It's I-2.
Unless you're a grandfathered, and I think that's the case for most of them properties.
Yeah,
So we're still looking for land in
yes, I've got.
District 1?
We've got a couple of those places we're looking at right now. And I'm working with Billy Brown in the property assessor's office. Every time he gets a piece of property or looks at a piece that he thinks might be suitable, he'll. give
If
me
someone
a
has a
call.
piece of property that might be interested in selling or leasing to the county for that purpose, would they contact the mayor's office or you, Robert?
Anybody. Just get it to us one way or the other, through the mayor's office would probably be the best, but.
Apparently, the line was even today, Monday, out on Clinton Highway again, and it's getting worse and worse, so appreciate anything we can do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a specific radius for locating those transfer stations that we've got to stay within?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, we'd
No.
like to keep it around that area somewhere. I mean, but
Okay, I didn't know if it had to be a certain distance from the others, or
I don't think so,
kind of that.
Mayor.
I can ask Jennifer Balk on that. I do know as far as TDEC requirements were only required for, I guess, our population to have 3 convenience centers.
Okay.
So we do have 3 fully manned, and we have 2 that are called green box sites that are not manned. And eventually, over time, we either have to shut them down or have them manned. So that's something that we also have to have on the horizon as well. But 5, did I say?
We got 5 that are fully manned. You said 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
But
Well, they're not fully manned. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of you're right, 5, and then we have the 2 additional that are, yes,
Cages Creek and
Yes, yes.
Brown Flat.
yes. So those 2, yes.
And that's something that we've talked about also, the 2 that are unmanned, we still have people who come in and set those on fire. And it costs Waste Connections $600 every time they do that because they have to take that container back and, sandblast it and repaint it and all that. And it's costing them about $600 every time one catches on fire. And they sort of scolded us a time or two and said we need to do something about it because they're not going to continue to pay that $600 every time somebody sets one on fire. So anybody in those areas that are using those needs to know that you may harm yourself by setting them on fire.
This could be one of our, always talk about investment strategies and things like that, is to have definitely better convenience centers and even cover the convenience centers. When people pull up and want to throw their garbage out there in the rain, whatever, but I mean, that's something else we could look at too.
Well, one of the things that I've always said, and I traveled quite a bit of the state with Dave Bowling back when we first got into the convenience centers, and that was what everybody told us, they have to be convenient. And with the closing of the Glen Alpine site, the new Glen Alpine site has less tonnage right now, and the one in East Wolf Valley has increased because people don't want to turn around and drive back to Highway 441 if they live in, say, Hunter's Trail, if they're going to Knoxville, they'll just wait and drop it over here. So our tonnage has increased over here and decreased at the new facility. So,
Could we in Claxton put a tipping fee in? It's just a joke, it's a joke. Well, I think we'll find a piece of property that will be, this is helpful, and I'm not certain a meeting would be helpful because but I think getting the word out there and letting people know we're looking, and like the mayor and yourself have done, Robert, and maybe
the county
some.
owns some property down on Blockhouse Valley, but, you know, if you're gonna have to drive all the way to the end
Right.
of Blockhouse Valley to utilize that old Claxton Fire Hall where they used to have a fire hall down there,
Right,
we could put one there, but it's so out of the way, I don't think it'd be utilized.
right.
And the people, you know, still would have to drive all that long
And
distance,
that
and it's
gas
a narrow
locate,
road.
the gas location sold or wasn't available?
I'm working on trying to get half of that and another portion that,
Okay,
they did say no originally because they were concerned with some, liability maybe, if the county purchased that, because they intend to leave those two big tanks there. They fill those from the, trains that come through, and then they utilize those two tanks to fill their smaller trucks, and they would have to keep those, and I told them, you know, we give you right away into that, and then all, if you'll sell us the rest of it, because it's a perfect piece of property.
yeah, that would be great. That would.
But, I've gone back to the drawing board after we lost out on the hitching post, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Anything else? I'd like to take time to commend the Clinton Dragons on their basketball season,
Yes.
Thank you.
and
Appreciate
the
it.
Wildcats. of
Yes,
course, but-
absolutely. Wildcats.
but,
They're still in it. We
Yeah.
haven't got any updates yet tonight.
Wildcats playing tonight in, or is it tomorrow night?
Tonight, Science
Science
Hill.
Hill, yeah.
Still, yeah.
Could we take that another step further and maybe bring them in and recognize them?
I think
Yes.
so.
I think we
And
ought
Jim
to.
Harris, because I didn't get to go to the games, but I did listen to the
Yeah.
voice of the Dragons.
Well, now there's, yeah, I'd like to do that. I don't know, maybe Robert can help with that.
Yeah, let's do
Glad
it.
So
to
thank
do
you,
it.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else come before the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
I don't know if everybody's aware of it or not, but Terry Benjamin, who was a longtime city employee, and if you ever played any sports in Clinton, you know Terry Benjamin. And he passed away last night, kind of unexpected. But I'd just like to offer our condolences to the family and really talk about what a great person he was, because he was instrumental in youth sports, and he thought the world of children and worked with
certainly
them
was.
and all that, and he was just an all-around great guy.
yeah.
So, big loss to our county.
Yes, it is. I guess we also had compadre, had a new addition.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Abby Isabella was her, Waddell, Commissioner Waddell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8 pounds, 9 ounces, I think. Looks like her mom, thankfully.
Anything else?
That's it.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.